My name is Shantanu Paul. I'm the founder and CEO of Talent Sprint. And I must tell you that the two of the most interesting things we have done this year is launching our AI machine learning program, which started 2 months ago, and the FinTech and blockchain program, which we are now launching with the help of you guys. So just like that was a huge success, I fully expect this one to be a huge success as well, because if there's one thing I've learned in the last 2-3 years, I think you guys know that I sit on various financial services companies boards and bank boards, committees and subcommittees of various parts of technology and fintech and financial services. If there's one thing I've learned in the last, I would say 12 months, that wherever we have committee meetings, discussions, CTOs of banks, people like yourself, Samir, because you are a former CTO yourself, it is always the same story. You know, everybody has a massive talent crunch. Everybody wants to upskill people they have. Everybody wants to hire people they don't have.
Agreed.
So clearly this appears to be a time when, you specialize in blockchain and fintech, and all of a sudden you have this enormous global potential that takes your career to a whole new level. So that's our belief, and that's the reason for this program, right? So let me start with you, Samir. I think your career is extremely interesting. I think one of the few guys who has done equally well in the IT industry and the banking industry as a technologist and as a manager and leader of complex projects. I know you began your career at Infosys.
Yeah, I worked there for a pretty long time.
Yeah, so tell us about your Infosys journey and how that prepared you for a fintech career that you had subsequently.
So I think I just walked back in my history. So for around 18-20 years back, I started working on the digital side or technology side. And I was a finance guy working in technology, and this was undefined role, right? So people would look at me saying that, what the hell are you doing? My mother would always ask me, what the hell are you doing? Thankfully, I think now they understand what I do, which is fin and tech were always together. Now, in terms of what I learned in Infosys is that the underpinning all the process is very simple. We need to ensure that we give power to the customers to act, right? Which means that if customer can actually onboard himself, customer can actually offboard himself and process all his transactions, that's where the power is. Now, it can be about opening an account, it can be about making a payment, or it can be about credit underwriting, it can be about any of the processes, right? So what in that Infosys journey, I ended up setting up a direct bank almost thrice, 2 times in Europe and once in US, and ended up doing a lot of work around API banking for Discover Bank in US. So the journey was like this. We realized that so much could be done without intervention of human beings on the front end side. And the moment you give power to the customer acts very differently, and maybe he comes faster and more to you and gives you more money. So I think I realized that fin and tech are inseparable. And just give you another context, while on Ola or Uber, we had to move a person from one place to another. It's an interesting place where in finance, you don't have to move anything. It's all about an accounting entry or an entry in some system. You are never delivered anything. At best, the only place we have to get some delivery done is when you move to a shop, your bank branch for a locker usage, right? Other than that, you never need to walk into a branch for anything, right? So that's the understanding I got, saying that this is the right place to be, and that's been journey for all my last 40 years.
So that's fantastic. I think, putting the customer-centric worldview is a goal, and I think you've done a very good job explaining it. I'll come back to on your subsequent fintech companies, because Infosys, of course, sees an IT company, but, you've done CTO of a bank after that. So we'll come back to that. But Ritesh, question for you. A long stint at Microsoft. I know you began your career at Accenture, but let's for a minute focus on one. I mean, you came to Microsoft, and I think you've been one of the most famous evangelists in Microsoft, written multiple books internationally on topic, and I believe your blockchain book will be the first book out of India written by an Indian professional for the world audience. So anyway, Microsoft, tell us your Microsoft journey and what did you learn there that is relevant today for this work?
So thank you for asking me this question, because this will help bring out my experience and talk about it and my learnings, and how you can, or maybe people who are listening to us can take away their learnings for them to go forward in their careers, actually. So I joined Microsoft, I'll be very honest, I joined as a digital architect. And the first thing I did in Microsoft was an infra architect. So I became an architect at Microsoft Consulting Services. And I was helping all my global customers on the infrastructure platforms and the global platforms and the collaboration platforms and things like that. And from there, I moved into evangelism. I was doing evangelism for India as a region. So as part of that activity, I used to interact with a lot of startups, a lot of ISPs, small and medium sector. And I tell you, the kind of energy these companies bring and the kind of innovation they are propelling into the different kind of applications, they're trying to figure out how to make people's life easier, how to make the entire ecosystem easier using technology. And I figured out when I used to interact with these companies that every company is becoming a software company these days. Every company, no matter what you're talking of, which domain, whether it's a FinTech, whether it's a manufacturing, whether it is insurance, whether it's banks for that matter, they all are becoming software company by themselves, because the kind of changes that's coming up in the ecosystem globally, you will be left behind if you don't have that IT presence for your company. So as part of this experience, I was working on some of the latest and the greatest emerging technology that was happening in and around the industry, which included things like DevOps, AI, ML, bots, and things like that, and obviously cloud. But one of the big disruptive force that I came across at that point of time was the blockchain. Though I have been investing in blockchain, in cryptos for a long time, but actual use of blockchain, when I started talking to these startups and they wanted to implement blockchain for their own customers, and use cases like land registry, use cases like identity, ownership, all of them become very important for these startups. And that actually made me feel that this is the biggest force that's going to change human lives. This is the thing that is going to impact each and every individual going forward. Because imagine when Aadhaar was not there and when Aadhaar came, how it impacted your life, how is it impacting your life today? It's a change that is universal. And blockchain being a universal technology, we are at par in globally today. Normally, it had been a trend that India follows whatever is happening in the West. But this is the first time, or you can think about it, that this is almost the first time where we are at par, or maybe ahead in technology for blockchain when we're talking in the global context. And this is not only from a technology point of view. We are spearheading some of the biggest implementations, some of the use cases that I'm talking when I talk to, even today when I talk to startups. I was in a conference yesterday on blockchain and integrating blockchain and AI. And the kind of energy I'm seeing in these startups and the companies, it's unprecedented. It's simply unprecedented, because it is going to impact within 5 years. I don't even say 20 years, 10 years. And people actually tweeted my name saying that I made a statement that within 5 years or a couple of years itself will start, you will mark my words, you're going to change, you will see the change in your lives using blockchain. Not only in your careers, in your innovation strategy, propelling your business as a whole. Talk about all the global brands and whether it's a Volkswagen, whether it's BMW, whether it's Porsche, you name it. There was a recent news about Walmart using blockchain as the primary delivery mechanism for whatever services they're providing. So it's going to affect all brands. It's going to affect all industries. I have seen from metal scrap to automobiles. Everybody using blockchain to a certain extent now. So that trend has started. It's not going to go back because of the benefit. The technology is built on. It's a sound foundation. It's built on. So there's a lot of things going to happen around it. So that's my experience. I have worked a lot on blockchain from as an evangelist. Even after being an evangelist, I've been working a lot on blockchain. So I've written a couple of books, and one of them is going to be published soon. So that's a small gist about what I have done in blockchain, and that's what I'm going to bring on the table.
Fantastic.